Well, happy Tuesday, everybody, and it's a big day for Tennessee basketball as the Vols look for revenge against Kentucky. 9 o'clock Eastern time tip inside TBA, trying to make good of that embarrassment up in Lexington earlier this year. Lance Daw of Locked On Kentucky will stop by the show, and plus your questions on Twitter Tuesday. A loaded show coming up here on Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, welcome into Locked On Vols. I'm your host, Eric Kane. Thanks so much for hanging out with me here today. And don't forget today's episode. It is brought to you by Rock Auto. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com and tell them Locked On sent you. So as I said in the cold open, fun show ahead. We'll get to your Twitter Tuesday comments right now. Lance Daw in segment 2, and then a more previewing Kentucky that's set to be a big monster showdown coming up inside TBA. That is tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern time. This is a Kentucky team that's won its last 6 outings, and it doesn't lose games consecutively, so we can do the math and look at the streaks there. But a big one coming up here tonight against Kentucky. I'm your host, Eric Kane. Glad to have you guys here with me today. Thanks so much for making Locked On Vols your first listen and for catching the show on YouTube. Subscribe, search Locked On Vols, subscribe on YouTube. Help us grow the show there. And I do radio in Knoxville, Tennessee at 99.1 The Sports Animal. That's a flagship station for the Vols. Also write for the VolQuest.com site. That's Tennessee Rivals, covering football and recruiting. So a little bit about me if you're new to the show, but a lot of guys that chime in for Twitter Tuesday each and every day. We'll go ahead and get to it here today. We will start with SoxoFred_22. How much do you think the injuries have that John Fulkerson has suffered from having COVID 2 times are the blame for his decline? Or do you think he has always been this type of player that just had a Jeremy Lin type run back in 2019? Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. Listen, do I think John Fulkerson is just a stud scorer on the basketball court? No, I don't think that has ever been in his game. I don't think that he has ever been a true number one option. I don't think he's that type of player. Now, he certainly was that true number one option, again, as we reference back in 2019 in the back half of that schedule, but I just don't think that's truly him. That doesn't mean that he's not a scorer. It doesn't mean that he can't give you, again, anywhere from 7 to 12 points. That's what you're shooting for right now, obviously. So I think it's a little bit of both. Now, again, on the other side, as you mentioned with the COVID, I do think there's something there. I mean, last year, he truly never was the same player after he had COVID. And I don't know how many of you guys have had COVID or whatever, just from a respiratory standpoint, if you're a runner, if you work out, just trying to get that back, trying to get your feet back under you. Sometimes it takes a little while. It obviously depends on the person. And obviously none of us are playing basketball at a high level like John Fulkerson is. And again, he's not the only player who's ever had, COVID or COVID multiple times in back-to-back years. It just kind of is what it is. But I do think it affects certain people different ways. And I think that it is truly affecting him. But overall, I don't think that he is a true number one option consistently. But that doesn't mean, again, like we talked about on yesterday's show, I truly don't mean that as a slap in the face to him. I think there's still some tremendous value there. So that's how I'd answer that question. Soxo_Fred. Appreciate you chiming in. We'll get to Steven. As you touched on in the third segment of the podcast yesterday, we had the toughest stretch of the season coming up. It's undefeated in TBA. Not sure if that will remain intact. I think we will beat Missouri and Georgia, but cannot sleep on them. We will split Arkansas, with the winner being the home team. Kentucky will win by 8. Auburn will win by 12. What say you? He also mentioned that he used my phrase there in terms of what say you. So I did catch that. That's pretty cool. All right, so Tennessee's remaining 6 games. Gosh, what a brutal stretch. I think, as we talked about, Steven, in the DMs, I think if you go 3-3, that's that's okay. I think 4-2 would be incredible. So I think Kentucky's going to be a challenge here tonight. That does not mean Tennessee can't win, because Tennessee, with Rick Barnes here, has made a habit of beating Kentucky, right? I understand what the score was the first go around. It was 107-79. I get that. I understand that Kentucky could potentially win the national championship this year, but that doesn't mean Tennessee can't beat them tonight. I think it's going to be a close ball game. So tonight will be a challenge, but for picking's sake, let's say that's a loss. At Arkansas, again, Did have a slip up against Alabama over the weekend, but prior to that, took down the top team in the country in Auburn, playing hotter than anybody in the country right now, arguably. Let's say that's a loss. Let's say Tennessee goes 0-2 this week. At Missouri, it's going to be a challenge. Just like you said, Stephen, can't overlook them. I think that's a win. Auburn, say that's a loss. You're looking at 1-3 right now. At Georgia, that's a win. Against Arkansas at home, it'll be tough, but I'll say that's a win. Again, that's your path to 3-3 potentially. Can Tennessee beat Kentucky tonight? Absolutely. Can Tennessee go on the road and beat Arkansas? Sure. It's just going to be tough. If I had, gun to head, I would say probably 3-3. But it wouldn't shock me if Tennessee goes 4-2. But also, Tennessee's not good enough to overlook anybody. So as you pointed out, Tennessee cannot overlook Missouri on the road because you don't know what type of team you're getting with Conzo Martin. And at Georgia, you certainly can't overlook that. So I say 3-3. And if that were to be the case, Tennessee would be 21-9. Tennessee would be 12-6 in SEC play. Not horrible, not horrible. Again, all those would be still quad one losses for the Volunteers. Stephen, good question there. We will go to Daniel. All right, Eric, my Twitter Tuesday question. It is a tough one. How excited are you for Smokey 11? Will he be the same blanket-loving Smokey who loves to bark like Smokey 10? Yeah, I don't know. I saw Tennessee making a big deal about it on social media. Hey, it is what it is. Yeah, Smokey's come and go. Hopefully this one will be just as good. They're all cute, so that's good. They all look adorable, as you pointed out, in that blanket on national television. ESPN, the SEC network, whoever's doing the broadcast always has to get about 10 up-close and personal shots of Smokey under the blankets, and that dog certainly gets treated better than you and I do on a regular basis. So we'll have to see. But a hard-hitting question there, Daniel. Hopefully I was able to answer it to your liking. We'll continue on. We will go to the Locked On Vols account, and we'll check in with Tyler. Tyler asks, Super Bowl's in the books. That means it's back to college talk. Which game is the bigger must-win in year two for Josh Heupel? Is it Florida or LSU? Both year one coaches, but which one matters more? Now, well, the easy question is Florida, right? And again, I don't think either one of the teams will be down for long. I certainly think LSU will be better than Florida in year one of the rebuild because I think there's a lot more talent on that roster. I think it's a tough place to play, and I think Brian Kelly's a hell of a coach. And Tennessee's going to be on the road there, so that's going to be super, super challenging. Tennessee will be at home against Florida. Again, I don't think Florida will be down for long. I think Billy Napier is a solid coach, certainly not Brian Kelly. But I do think Florida will struggle a little bit here in year one of this rebuild. So I would say Florida without a doubt. I mean, again, you have no success against Florida. I mean, if it's not this year that you just try to steal a win, when are you going to do it, right? I mean, I know that each individual matchup, each individual game will present its different circumstances of challenges. That's just how football works. But on paper, looking this far out, obviously we're in the month of February. You got to go win that game. You got to win that game, right? I mean, it's not a fireable offense, but goodness gracious, Florida is down. Florida's on the road. Florida's got a brand new coach, a brand new scheme. Go win that game. I think LSU can win 9 games potentially this year. So, yeah, I would say Florida, and I don't even really have to think about it twice. But good question there. All right, we will finish up here with Twitter Tuesday, and then we will welcome on Lance Daw on the show here in segment 2. We will go to the Facebook meter, and again, you can find me on Facebook at Caner on Air, and that's what Eric did. Here's his question. Have you heard any of the early enrollees that are starting to impress the staff during winter workouts? Yeah, it's interesting. I heard a couple of names just the other day, actually. Eric, of course, Tennessee welcomed on I forgot the number. We talked about it here on the show. I want to say 14, 15, maybe 18 total, counting some walk-ons that came in. And, of course, Gerald Mincy. Nonetheless, welcome to a bevy of newcomers here for the midterm early enrollees. 2 names. You've got Elijah Herring, who, again, linebacker, who was Tennessee's first overall commit for Josh Heupel way back in April of 2021. Heard he is starting to come in. He's working very hard. Someone, when I was talking to somebody, they said you can already see his body kind of transforming. I'm not buying that. He's been on campus for a couple of weeks. Let's slow the roll there. But that doesn't mean that won't be the case in a couple of weeks. Again, you get in that strength conditioning program, you get on that meal plan here at the next level. Things change and things change in a hurry, but it's the mindset, it's the work ethic. And I'm hearing good things about Elijah Herring as well as Cam Miller. I mean, again, Hearing Cam Miller's coming in and working really hard, I'm just so intrigued on how they're going to use him this year. You got to rep one position, you got to master one position before you can even contemplate being a package player or maybe even being a multiple position player. But I think Cam Miller has the athletic ability to do so. Heard some good things about Cam Miller. Can't wait to see those two guys, Elijah Herring and Cam Miller, inside spring practice here in a couple of weeks. Guys, as always, thanks so much for your Twitter Tuesday submissions. We'll get Lance Dahl on here from Locked On Kentucky when we return. But first, football might be over this season. Obviously, the Super Bowl was a couple of days ago, but basketball is in full steam, both for the pros and for college hoops. From the latest odds, totals, player performance props, to where the next coach is going to be fired or land, BetOnline.net is your number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for your sports scores, podcasts, and news all season long. And it's not just basketball either. BetOnline.net, your source for hockey, boxing, UFC, odds right to the Olympic coverage and information. Head on over to the website or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the actions. BetOnline, it is where the game starts. Hey guys, thanks so much for making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every day, wherever you get your podcast, completely free, available on every single platform. And of course, Tennessee, a big time game coming up later tonight. I'm your host, Eric Kane, and now I want to bring on the host of Locked On Kentucky. His name is Lance Dahl. Lance, what's going on, man?
Oh, not a whole lot. Just reminiscing about the time we dropped 107 points on you guys, but just nothing really other than that. Just having a good time, man.
Guns blazing. The home crowd's really gonna like that in the comment section. So, Kentucky, you look at third in the net rankings, fourth in the AP, won 6 straight, but won probably their last 8 of 9. Probably, arguably the best team in the nation. Arguably the best player in the country this year in Oscar Tshiebwe. What's going right with Kentucky right now?
Well, I'll say probably the best thing that's happening for Kentucky right now is their defense. I would say that right now the Wildcats are playing really good defense, and they've been doing something that they had some issues with, I believe, early on in the season, getting back in transition and getting stops. They've not really allowed teams to run on them as of late, and I certainly think that has helped them in a lot of different contests. You saw in that Alabama game a little bit of a defensive affair. They got back in transition against the Crimson Tide. Alabama put up 33s against the Wildcats, and they only made 3 of them. So I think getting back in transition has been a point of emphasis for this team defensively, and I think that's helped them a lot. I would say, though, right off the bat, one of the things that's different about this matchup is that Ty Washington will not be playing. He got injured last game against Florida. He's not expected to return to this game against Tennessee, and I would say that's probably the thing that concerns me the most. If I'm going to come in here guns blazing, making jokes about 107 points being scored, look, I do not think Kentucky's going to score 107 points in this matchup for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say Ty Washington, what's the latest in him? You kind of told us there. That's 28 points from the first matchup. Of course, he went off. What's Kentucky's plan to replace that type of production in the lineup tonight?
Well, I think they're going to go and they're going to look to a veteran guy off the bench, Davian Mintz. Now, Mintz was a starter on last year's team, got a lot of playing time, got a lot of experience. He's a really good shooter. He's been playing really well as of late, very efficient coming off the bench, really knows his role well. I think Kentucky's going to have to ask him to step in and play a lot more minutes than he has been accustomed to playing this season. And look, Ty Washington got hurt against Auburn. Davian Mintz has already seen this situation this year. He knows how to play with these guys. He knows how to play with them well. I think putting him in the starting rotation and asking him to take a little more shots, to distribute the basketball a little bit more, I don't think it's going to be too much to ask from him. Now, is he going to score 28 points in replacement of Ty Washington as Washington did against Tennessee last game? I don't think so, but I definitely don't think Kentucky is going to suffer. And I'll also say this. Before Washington got hurt, and this is not a knock on Washington overall as a player, he had been in a little bit of a shooting slump. And so, honestly, I don't think that Mintz is going to hurt this team having to play more.
Severe Wheeler was a guy that was missing some time, came back, played against Tennessee that first time, about 9 points, 7.2 assists per game. That leads the SEC third in the country. It's a guy that's playing really, really well for Kentucky. Another guy that Tennessee's backcourt player is going to have to watch out for.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Tennessee really struggled with Kentucky's backcourt last time they played. I don't think Severe Wheeler is going to be a score in this game. In fact, he had missed 19 straight shots before knocking down his very first against Florida this past game. He's been on a little bit of a cold streak right now, but like you mentioned, a great distributor. He's also an underrated defender, in my opinion. And so I really question, Tennessee right now, they've got a couple different guards that are scoring and playing very well. How does Severe Wheeler guard a guy like Sakai Ziegler or Santiago Vescovi? I think it's going to be very interesting to see. But yeah, Severe Wheeler, the number one distributor for this team, and he's the guy between Washington himself that really knows how to push the pace in transition. That's something that the Volunteers are going to have to watch out for.
Look at Kentucky this season, 5-3 in true road games. All right. And you got losses to Notre Dame or at Notre Dame, LSU, and Auburn, of course, but no one's going to, hang your hat over losing to Auburn. But you do have wins against Kansas and Alabama on their home courts. How would you describe Kentucky on the road this season compared to Kentucky at home and Kentucky at a neutral site?
I would say that they have been up and down, like you just mentioned, 5-3 in true road games. Look, early on in the season, this was a huge complaint of mine. Kentucky's strength of schedule in the non-conference slate was just incredibly weak. They didn't really play a lot of opponents that got them prepared for the SEC road, and that was just a huge complaint of mine. We saw that loss to Notre Dame. Notre Dame's actually not that bad of a team, it appears, but yeah, losses to LSU on the road, losses to Auburn. Look, whenever they go up against a very sound defensive team, they can struggle. We've already seen that at times this season. So they've been up, they've been down. I would say, though, based on the way that they've been playing as of late on the road, they've been very methodical, very patient at different times. They know when to pick up the pace. They know when to slow it down. This team, I think, is really starting to peak at the right time. So the way I would describe this team right now on the road is just simply methodical. Now, how they operate against one of the best defenses in the country in Tennessee, I think is going to be an interesting thing to see.
Lance Dahl, Locked On Kentucky, joining the show, does a lot of work for us graphic-wise here on Locked On Vols as well. Make sure to give him a follow. That is his incorrect Twitter handle, I just realized, if you're watching on YouTube. Lance, what's your Twitter handle right now?
My Twitter handle is Lance_Daw_, and I apologize because I initially was like Daw Pound's cool, and then I'm like, well, I kind of want Lance, so I've kind of transitioned Twitter handles recently, so I apologize.
Yeah, it's not my fault. It's not my fault, but nonetheless, give a follow on Twitter. Hey, Lance, I mean, you look at Kentucky. It's not like it was a bad defensive team the first go around, but I mean, Tennessee's been elite defensively all season long. Now, giving up 107 points to Kentucky's pretty much an outlier, but it looks like Kentucky's most improved asset of this basketball team, and something you picked on earlier, was its improved defensive play. I mean, how has this team kind of transformed from being okay defensively to being, right now sitting at 12th in Ken Palm's defensive efficiency rating on defense right now?
Well, I think a couple of things have happened. First off, Oscar Tshiebwe has been the lone guy really to get defensive rebounds for this team. And I think what Kentucky started to do recently is they've been sending more guys to the glass. That's just simply been what's benefited them so far whenever they play defensively. And also, I think another thing that has been something that I complained about a little bit early on in the season and has slowly started to get better as the season has gone on is just the aggression on defense. I think Kentucky plays with a lot more passion now. I think they play a lot more comfortably. And so I would just simply say the aggression on the glass and the aggression just staying in front of different players and really pressuring opponents' guards has probably been the thing that I've been the most pleased with, just actually putting out some legitimate effort on defense so far.
Yeah, two more things for you, Lance. You mentioned Oscar Tshiebwe, obviously. Leading the country in rebounds at 15.3. He's Kentucky's leading scorer, just a little over 16 points, coming off just a fantastic game against Florida over the weekend. How good is he? And is he would he be your pick right now for the player of the year? Not only in the SEC, but in college basketball.
Yes, I think definitely right now he is probably I said this on last episode. If he hasn't locked it up already, barring injury or just a massive collapse, knock on wood, he's got that trophy locked up. And something interesting I actually wanted to note, he's a fantastic player. Like I mentioned, just a great rebounder. He's got some really good post moves as well. Not known as a shot blocker, but he's definitely physical, defending the rim. Something that I wanted to note is that, he only scored 9 points against the Vols last time out, and he only had 12 rebounds, one of his worst outputs of the entire season. So I think if Tennessee has similar success like they did the first time these two teams met, I think they're going to have a very legitimate chance to win this game.
And of note as well, Tennessee's best rim protector, of course, Olivier Cumwa, not going to be in this one, out for the season, likely has missed the last couple of games. So that's going to wreak havoc as John Fulkerson, Uros Plavsic, Brandon Huntley-Hatfield, Jonas Adu, whoever the case may be, Josiah Jordan-James playing the four. It's going to be a whole team effort trying to corral Tshiebwe and find him for rebounds down there in the front court. Lance, last thing, man. Kentucky, again, arguably one of the best teams in the country, playing like one of the best teams in the country. Anything can happen in this rivalry with Tennessee, who's won 6 of the last 11. Tennessee, who, before that embarrassment earlier in the season, 107-79, where I do want to point out, Tennessee had a great offensive day, which is so ironic because Tennessee is a great defensive team. At the point in time, it was struggling offensively. Had a great offensive day, but just couldn't stop anybody. Kentucky, can this team win a national championship? I know tournament basketball, it's about where you're seated, what region, what matchups, all that. But your big picture thoughts on Kentucky maybe winning it all this year?
Well, look, I think that there are two things that stand out about this Wildcats team. And for one, they're a lot more experienced than they have been in the past. John Calipari put together a veteran team this season in a lot of different positions. And I also think something that stands out about this team, this has been a point of emphasis as of late on my podcast, is that Kentucky can win against any style of play. They can win a game in the 60s. They can win a game in the upper 80s. They can really, if you want to dictate the pace of the game, that's fine. But Kentucky can adjust and they can grind you down no matter how you play the game. At least it seems like they're doing that right now. So I would say big picture wise, I think this team is built, if they can get Ty Washington back and he's healthy, I think they're built to make a tournament run. Because again, like I mentioned, they can adjust to so many different styles of play. It makes them very dangerous in a tournament setting.
Yeah, crazy things have happened in this matchup. Crazy things happen at 9 o'clock Eastern Time tips inside Thompson Bowling Arena, a place where Tennessee has not lost all season long. Should be a really, really, really good game against Tennessee and Kentucky coming up later tonight. Lance, appreciate it, man. Do a great job, and we'll get you back on the show, okay?
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
That's Lance Dahl, Locked On Kentucky. Really does do a fantastic job. We'll come back. We'll tie a bow, give you some more notes about this matchup. It's Tennessee, who is 16th in the country, latest AP poll ranking, going up against Kentucky, the number 4 team in all the land, coming up tonight inside Thompson Bowling Arena at 9 o'clock. We'll continue our preview when we return. But before we get back into that, I want to remind you about Rock Auto. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. Why choose to spend up to 30%, 50%, sometimes even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or dealership when you can get them at rockauto.com. Don't have to have the hassle of the person behind the counter searching for all these products from their warehouse, only from their specifications. You can have a full range at rockauto.com. Family-owned business serving it to do-it-yourselfers online for 20 years. The prices are always so reliably low for every single customer. They have everything you could possibly need, from brake parts to tail lamps, motor rolls, even the new carpets. Go explore their easy-to-use website today and find the solution to all of your auto part needs. All right, go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car and your truck. Right Locked On in the How Did You Hear About Us box, and they know that we sent you doing that, okay? So amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit my friends at rockauto.com. All right, we'll try to make it short and sweet here for a final segment of a Tuesday show. Again, great job from Lance Dahl. Came in guns blazing, guys. I know you're not going to like that, but one thing about Lance is he does his homework, if you can't tell. Does a great job of previewing every single Kentucky basketball matchup, coming with stats and everything to play ball with. And he even backtracked a little bit and said, hey, Ty Washington's not going to play in this game. So I would be remiss if I didn't say that. But any way you want to spin it, this is a really, really good Kentucky basketball team. Usually they have those up there in Lexington with John Calipari. But if Tennessee wins tonight, wouldn't shock me at all, because Tennessee, again, has won 7 straight SEC games. I know there's no Olivier Comwell. I do think that that's going to be kind of a problem for Tennessee tonight, especially when you're trying to battle for those boards against Oscar Tshiebwe and some of those other guys. But Tennessee Rick Barnes is pushing all the right buttons right now, whether it be getting some early PT for Brandon Huntley-Hatfield, Jonas Adu, Uros Plavsic early on in each half, and then finishing off with that 4-guard lineup and John Fulkerson here lately. It's been working. So we'll have to see if the good times continue to roll on for Tennessee at home tonight to get another late one 9 o'clock tip against Kentucky, number 4 in the country, 21-4 overall in the season's got a 10-2 record. Again, I mentioned that Kentucky has won each of its last 6 ball games. They don't miss or they don't lose back-to-back games hardly at all. And so again, you've won your last 6 games. You got to go all the way back to the last loss, which was Auburn on the road. That was on January the 22nd. Prior to that, it won its last 5 games. It lost on the road at LSU on the 4th of January. won 4 games before that, won at Notre Dame on the 11th of December, and of course won the season opener against Duke. Or lost the season opener against Duke. So lost to Duke, 1, 2, 4, 6, 9. Lost to Notre Dame, won 5. Lost to LSU, won 4. Lost to Auburn, has won 6 straight. That's kind of what Kentucky has done so far this year. You look at Kentucky, Tennessee actually gives, or ESPN, the matchup predictor inside that ESPN app actually gives Tennessee a 56% chance of victory, which is interesting there. Says a lot about the home court advantage. Kentucky scores 81 points per game, Tennessee 74 points against. Giving up 64 points is Kentucky. Tennessee's giving up 63. Kentucky shoots at 49% clip, which was just incredible. Tennessee's up that all the way to 43 here in recent games. Kentucky leads the nation in reboundings, 41-36 advantage for Kentucky over Tennessee. Kentucky has 17 assists per game, Tennessee 16. Kentucky and Tennessee both average 4.4 blocks per game. Steals per game, Tennessee has a 2 steal advantage, 9-7 over Kentucky. And of course, the streak is at 6 straight for Kentucky, 4 straight for the Volunteers. Look at the net rankings. Tennessee is 10th in the latest net rankings. Kentucky is 3rd. Offensive efficiency, where Kentucky's been great all season long, they're 4th in the country. Tennessee is 30th. Defensive efficiency, adjusted efficiency rankings, this is where Kentucky has improved an awful lot. We talked about it with Lance. Kentucky now all the way up to 12th in the country, whereas Tennessee's kind of been in that top 8 all season long. Points and times led the nation in this stat, but Tennessee sits at 6th right now. And according to Ken Palm's strength of schedule, Tennessee has the 10th toughest schedule in the country, according to Ken Palm, whereas Kentucky has the 45th toughest schedule in the country. Look at the series. Kentucky leads the series 158-75 all time. It dates all the way back to 1910. Even inside TBA, Kentucky holds the advantage. It's slight, though, at 54-51, but the Vols have won the last 4 of 6 played inside Thompson-Boling Arena. They won the last 6 of 11 against Kentucky. A lot of success for the Volunteers against Kentucky with Rick Barnes as your head coach. Kentucky has 6 quadrant 1 wins this season, 2 over teams inside the top 10 for the latest net rankings. Of course, that is Tennessee and Kansas. Kentucky, true road game, something we spoke on with Lance, 5-3, but has lost at Notre Dame, LSU, and Auburn, but has gone on the road and beaten Alabama and Kansas. That win against Kansas was a big one. But the story of this one, obviously the story of any time you're going to play Kentucky, is Oscar Tshiebwe. And Tennessee did a great job of limiting Oscar Tshiebwe's productions the first go-around. He finished with 9 points, and he finished with just, let's see here, Oscar Tshiebwe, 9 points and 12 rebounds, which is well below both of his season averages. So Tennessee did a good job. And of course, Olivier Cumbois played in that matchup the first go around. Now, he didn't score many points, but he certainly still was effective. Oscar Tshiebwe, 15.3 rebounds per game. That leads the nation, leads the team with 16.4 points per game. Sheaver Wheeler, 9.7 points per game, the second leading scorer, or one of the second leading scorers for Kentucky now, with Ty Washington likely out. 7.2 assists per game. That leads the SEC. That's 3rd in the country. And of course, like Lance mentioned, Ty Washington will not play, left the game against Florida, and is not expected to be ready for this one for the Volunteers, or for the Wildcats against the Volunteers. Look at the first matchups. Again, 107-79. Tennessee shot 53% from the field. Connected on 11 of 23 three-pointers, and that was the time of the season when Tennessee just couldn't buy a consistent offense. It was so tough. Tennessee had a great offensive day up in Lexington. Still couldn't hit free throws, made only 6 of 11, but 53% from the field, 47% from long range was Tennessee in that game against Kentucky the first go around. But Kentucky shot 67.9% from the field. That is not sustainable. That is an outlier. As good as an offensive team as Kentucky is, Kentucky will never shoot 70% from the field again. That was just complete and utter. I mean, what do you do, right? 67.9% was what Kentucky shot from the field in that game. 61% from 3, made 11 of 18, and made 20 of 21 free throw shots. So again, as good as Kentucky was or is offensively, they'll never be that good again. That's just a tremendous outlier in that basketball game. 28 points from Ty Washington, 21 points from Severe Wheeler. Tennessee did a great job against Tshiebwe, 9 points, 12 rebounds. A great job against Brooks, 9 points, 2 rebounds, but let the guards run wild. Grady as well had 16 points. Not a whole lot of bench production. 10 points from Mintz off the bench, who Lance said will jump in there and get the start. Likely 7 points from Toppin. Tennessee, 20 points from Santiago Vescovi. He had 17 points from Kennedy Chandler, 11 points from Josiah Jordan-James, who shot the ball well, 4 of 8, 3 of 6. No points from John Fulkerson, played 20 minutes, no points. Olivier Cumwa, 6 points, though most of that came from the field in the early going. Not much off the bench. Bradley Huntley-Hatfield in mop-up duty did score 11 points, but he played 10 minutes, 8 of which when the game was tremendously out of hand. Powell, 2 of 5 shooting, had 6 points, played 17 minutes. Ziegler played 17 minutes, scored 2 points. It just overall, it just wasn't a great showing for Tennessee. So looking for some revenge, certainly, against the Kentucky Wildcats. So we will see. Again, it's going to be a late one inside Thompson-Boling Arena, but I'm looking forward to this matchup. I think this is a game that Tennessee can feed off the home crowd, can feed off the good play of late, and just believe in themselves, believe in the coaching staff, and go out there and get a dub. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a good one. I am really, really looking forward to it. I think you will as well. Don't like the 9 p.m. tips. You guys know that, but obviously it's going to be on primetime television. The whole world's going to be watching this one, so really, really looking forward to that. All right, that's going to be it here for a Tuesday Locked On Vols. We will record late tonight and get you an episode up for a Wednesday morning Locked On Vols, recapping all that was Tennessee and Kentucky. We'll also have Josh Ward, probably have Logan Ward come back on to help me recap this game. It'll be a Ward times 2 show tomorrow here on Locked On Vols, but again, no relation there with Josh and Logan. Hey, now that we're done here with Locked On Vols, go ahead and check out Locked On Bets. Your boy Q, handicapping expert Lee Sterling, your one-stop shop for all your sports gambling needs. That is Locked On Bets. Make that your second listen after you're done with your first listen, which is, of course, Locked On Vols. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your Odyssey, wherever you get your podcasts, completely free every single morning. That's Locked On Vols. Can't thank you enough. Please subscribe to YouTube. Even if you're not a YouTube fan, just go ahead and make a profile, subscribe. You'll be doing the Lord's work for this show. The goal is 1,000. We're still in that direction, but of course, it's obviously the pace has slowed down. So let's go ahead and subscribe to Locked On Vols on YouTube. Guys, thanks so much. It's always been a fun show, and hopefully we'll be talking about some good basketball play on tomorrow's show here on Locked On Vols. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, everybody.